first-time founders have a different problems with them. Experienced founder have a different problem with them. What we have seen in our cases that the first-time founders often lack in thinking ideas about a long-term perspectivity, and even venture capitalists, angel funds are there who are funding on a ideation stages also. They think that it's into their idea stage, even after the MVP of a project is not yet done. There are the founders like in IPV also we are funding the ideation stages startups also, and first time founders have to think that they do their projection modeling correctly, and moreover what we believe is that the startup should have a innovation or a long term plan. It's people has to think that yes, the profitability is there, and what we are looking at is that innovation should be there. It should not be that people are afraid of taking an innovation, or there should be an idea which they can think from a long-term perspective. Thinking from a short-term perspective is killing your idea. What matters is your long-term vision, and at the time when VC invest into the startup, it is the VC which bet into the founder basically. The founder has to have a long-term commitment behind its idea so that they can succeed with it.
Thanks for that, Dimple. I think I'll come to you now, Vijay. And from a Soonicorn perspective, the first-time founders, what really has your experience been? I feel that this entire conversation about getting caught up with innovation, I don't necessarily sort of believe in that, because ultimately, I think the winners would be those who execute well. How much you think founders are getting caught up in the quote-unquote tech and not giving so much attention to execution? What really is your view? I see there is a problem a lot in first-time founders. They use big words, Metaverse, blockchain. Now everything is AI, for instance. But when it comes to execution, it's not much. What is your sense?
Perfect. Thanks, Srija. I would love to have a raise of hand. How many are first-time founders in the good quorum?
Wow, quite a few.
So this is for all of you, right? So given my background, I'm a chartered accountant and I only understand numbers, right? Tech comes second to me, and we have made 48 investments in the last 3 years. My first question to founders is what Srija has emphasized on. So yeah, sustainability is the, and I learned a word from you, unicorn. Right? That's a good number. So the idea is that all these first-time founders, all you guys, when you're raising a funds or let's say building a company, right? All those catchy words, just like जब blockchain आया तो सबने blockchain बनाया, जब AI आया तो AI बनाया. 2017 I started the investment banking practice, and that time we was figuring out a company which was claiming to be the India's top third AI company, because they used to have 10 employees, and out of those 10 employees, 7 were top 10 in the whole Indian ecosystem, right? So excellent founder, excellent pedigree. When we did our due diligence and valuations and everything, it was all taking check marks. But when we realized that their whole business plan was whole gala items, that AI will become this big and we will do this much business and this much turnover will be cracking on in this next 5 years. Just imagine doing 1 crore now in a whole year and claiming to have 100 crores in the next 5 years. And I can bet if that company still survived, couldn't have made that number till date, right? So it's all about dhanda, right? So tech, जैसे आपने बोला कि catching those numbers, and then AI went off, like it vanished for 2 or good 3 years. We never heard of AI being quoted into pitch decks. Cut when ChatGPT became a big thing last 1 year. Every deck has an AI being mentioned over there in a block terms, right? So it's all what problem is there, what solution you guys are building up. Versus just only catching those sea waves that you find AI startups में funding हो रही तो हम AI startup बना देते हैं या blockchain हो रहा है तो blockchain कर देते हैं. That's not how business are built, right? I come from a business family, so my father has always had a diary with him. He will always note down the revenue he makes and the expenses he made and the profit. So that solid profit is what you have to target upon. अगर वो नहीं है बुक्स में तो आप कितना भी टेक इनोवेशन ले, आप कितना भी फंडिंग रेज कर लोगे, the end result would be that you will be always into rush hour. Like we have first time founders or even the second time founders only making a single mistake, that raising only this much कि 6 months निकल जाएगा, 1 साल निकल जाएगा, उसके बाद फिर वो रोड पे, and then they are finding again the funding, and it's your main brain, who's the CEO of the company, is only for searching of funds. That's not how the companies are built, right? So she took an example of, let's say, Minimalist. How these guys took an exit of 2942 crores from HUL is not how they were chasing funding, right? And to quote, the founders got 1,000 crores in their bank. Can you imagine these founders who had equity of that company, right? So, but उन्होंने क्या बेचा? The Minimalist is not your tech company. It's just an information company. उनकी packaging बड़ी सी boring सी, लेकिन all the data on the packaging. That's only what they sold, right? And that's how the whole company became so big. And one of the good exits we saw in the last 1 or 2 years. Urban company can be second. But anyway, so just to summarize this, I guess rushing towards the keywords is not thing. Maybe that can land you in a meeting, but investors like us should understand कि आपका business model है ही नहीं. You're just trying to pitch us something which is not that going to be big. There's no business in the back end of it. There's only certain tech you guys want to build upon on, and then that company will generate revenue out of that tech is still questionable. So we don't look into those companies. But yeah, this is my advice to all the first time founders: just धंधा ढूंढो, जितना revenue कर रहे हो, चाहे starting में burn करोगे, लेकिन अगर investment से वो burn आप incapacitated करके 2-3 साल में उसको profitable कर लोगे, then that's a good business to bet on.
Thanks for that, Vijay. That's sort of very well said. I just hope the founders are listening about not get caught up with catchy words, but ultimately the proof of the pudding is in dhanda. Come to you now, Agam. Seafund. I'm just getting to know a little about you all. But from what I see it is that do you guys also have this fascination for technology, and how much in your diligence do you really spend time on tech versus execution? How is that distribution for you?
Absolutely. Firstly, thank you for having me here, and great event, and so good to see so many founders on a Thursday. Really exciting. I think for us it's a little different because we are a technology focused fund and an early stage fund. So we see startups when the dhanda is not so visible, to be honest, right? And these are pre-seed, seed startups where they are still working on their product, they're still working on the technology, they have an idea about something that could make a big impact in the, let's say, next 5 to 7 years. So we have a longer gestation period. What we recommend our founders when we evaluate them is, of course, we look at their backgrounds. It doesn't have to be you have to have a startup experience. You have to be professionally educated. You have to have that education in the field that you're working in. You also need to have a strong team that you're working with, even if it's 2 or 3 core management team that is there. As long as they have the core skill sets for what they are building, I think that is what really matters to us. What also matters is the product that they're working. We spend a lot of time comparing them with global counterparts to see if a similar problem is a problem that can be solved for whether either in India or they can find customers in the US. Because that is a market where dhanda comes a little earlier if you have early semblance of a technology or a product already. So for us, yes, it is important to look at the business side of things, but we first focus on the founder's background, we first focus on the technology of the product that they're building. We spend a lot of time evaluating that technology and the feasibility of the technology. Once all those checks are cleared, then yes, we do look at potential customers who could be there in India, in other markets, where we have those conversations with those customers, even before we invest, saying, okay, if this technology was a technology that your manufacturing facility could use, because a lot of times those are the early proponents of consumers that these startups have. And a lot of times when they get these early first few customers, even as pilots, that really helps them scale their business. And at least in tech company, deep tech companies, not tech companies, deep tech companies, as long as the product is solid, right? In SaaS in 2012, we used to have this term called product-led growth, right? That is reoccurring in the phases of deep technology companies, where the product, if it's strong itself, then yes, you can build a lot of through word of mouth, through the right hiring in the business roles, you can really build a business around it. I know it's contrary to what we are speaking, but at least in the deep tech spaces of semiconductors, robotics, we still feel that those are elements which are very crucial before we go on to the dhanda side.
No, that's very well said, because it's good to have different views on different kinds of startups. I come to you now, sir. Sir, from your experience of working with small businesses and first-time founders, अगर आपको कोई advice देना है, what will be your advice to them, sir?
In fact, our credit guarantee scheme is for micro and small enterprises, and though there is no specific guidelines by us for our member lending institutions, but first time startup, if they have idea, they have business idea, they have bankable proposals, but don't have collateral security, because collateral security is not available. You may be coming out of the college and having professional qualification, you may want to engage one team and you require working capital. And okay, capital, raising of the capital through venture funds, it's okay, cheaper, but debt is costlier. But because we are in debt, we are providing credit guarantee for the credit extended to any micro and small enterprises by our lending institutions. So we are mostly concerned by the credit only, but we don't have any specific product for venture debt. For venture debt, there is a guarantee scheme which is being operated by National Credit Guarantee Trust Company, which is under the Ministry of Finance, and we are set up by the Government of India, Ministry of MSME and CIDBI. Though we don't have any specific product for startup per se, but indirectly, when IIT Madras Department of Management Studies, the professor is there, Mr. Dilay, he has done a study and he has come out that indirectly, though we have, because entrepreneurs are not directly in contact with CGTMSE, because our direct customer is lending institution, because we provide credit guarantee to the lending institution. We give comfort to the lending institution to lend to the micro and small enterprises, because they are important purveyors of the Indian economy. Then they have come out that in the last 25 years of our journey, but this study was done in 23rd year. Why I am telling that we are in 25th year, we are celebrating 25th year this year, and this program is followed of that we want to make aware about our credit guarantee scheme to maximum micro and small entrepreneurs all over the country, and this sort of awareness programs we are conducting all over India. Around 60 we are going to cover. Already we have covered 40 awareness programs all over India, and even we do the online also for bankers also. My point is that more than 4,000 startups have been supported indirectly through venture debt. Means debt, you can say, either in the form of working capital or term loan, whatever our lending institution may have been provided to them, and the worth of guarantee was more than 2,000 crore. Though we were not aware of that, because we don't capture such type of information from our lending institution, but through study, because many of them are company, so their company name and their registration and SIN number, he has come out with the study. My point is that even if you don't raise capital through venture capital like equity, you can also approach bank, because nowadays even the debt is also not so costlier. Debt has become slightly cheaper. Earlier it was very costly, but nowadays it is, because it is a competitive world. Government is also pushing that more and more credit should flow to the micro and small enterprises, and by way of guarantee you can very well get the credit from the bank, and bank can assist you by this.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for that, for providing that capital perspective. And now I think we have the three investors. Let's spend some time with them on the nuances of building a startup. I'll come to you now, Agam, and go in that order. Talking about deep tech, and something that have struck me was the product market fit. Okay, and how do you define that? If I have done a startup, what are the 3 or 4 things which tell me that I'm getting towards a product market fit? And what are the green flags for you when you are diligencing a startup that okay, now they're moving to a PMF? Are there some false signals also which I can get as a first time founder?
Sure. I'll answer the false signals ones first, because that's an easier to identify. Typically, I was just having this conversation with Anubhav on our table. A lot of times, first-time founders, and it's no fault of their own, like I would do that too. A lot of times, founders get too passionate about their product, and they feel, because it is their baby, and like every mother thinks that their baby is the best baby in the world, every founder thinks that their product is the best product in the world. A lot of times that is true, but when you have your product out in the market and really customers start using it, or you think that, you also gave an analogy of hammer and nail, right? If that problem is not being there and the customers that you're trying to sell it to are not giving that feedback to you, you should start realizing that maybe there is something not wrong with the product, but something with the solution in the way you're positioning it to the companies, right? So false signals can be in the way that when you're going in the market with your product, even for a POC, if you're not getting a lot of positive feedbacks from multiple clients, or a client is asking for a lot of customizations to your product, then that clearly means that your product is one that needs a lot of changes industry to industry, and which will not become very scalable at large. The second false positive that you can get in terms of PMF is, a lot of time over the last 5 years, there's a lot of rush around deep tech and startup worlds. So every large enterprise is now moving towards trying out these newer products, which they were not so open with earlier. We see a lot of our products or our portfolio founders going to large organizations and they're getting POCs every which way, right? Many people don't get paid POCs. But the minute you start charging them for a POC, you will start realizing people are very stingy in terms of paying for a product. So if they really want to test out something for the purpose of eventually using it, they will pay whatever that amount is. If you're doing a lot of free POCs, which one of our founders accidentally did, it ended up taking a lot of his time and effort. He kept thinking that there is product market fit, or my product is really valuable. But then when it came to actually renewing those contracts, the companies did go haywire. So it's very important to, when you're looking at product market fit, when you build your product, test it out with different sets of people. So test it out with some technical advisors, which is what we also do, and we recommend our portfolio companies. So there are institutions where there are teams and specialized people who do technical product testing for yourselves. If it's an EV company, you can test it out with AI. If it's a company operating in the space of, let's say, membranes, you can go to IIT Madras, is a really good lab where you can go test those out. So depending on your portfolio, go check out or test with these agencies. Once you have those verifications, validations, go to the first set of potential customers and try to give them your product as a testing, but charge them a little bit for it. Once you get those two levels of clarifications done, then approach a larger organization, let's say a big firm or a VC fund, who can open doors for you to test out your product and get the first set of customers. That is the role ideally of early stage VC funds or incubators, who help them in that go-to-market strategy. So I think when you build that with those networks and you present your product in a certain way and you're able to get that result out, I think that time you really get a sense of true product market fit. Then it's a matter of scaling.
Thanks for that. So a true product market fit for a deep tech company, the biggest validation is if how many companies are willing to pay for your POCs. I mean, that is where if somebody is able to even pay to test your product, that really is the biggest validation. Now come to you now, Vijay, and I mean, from a more non-tech business perspective, like you spoke about the dhanda element, where are we getting caught up? For instance, this entire narrative about burn rate. I have to spend to win. Now this is the biggest thing which entrepreneurs do, because they are seeing an example of a mama earth. Okay, they burned through their nose to become number one in their category in 3 years, and VCs are also bankrolling it. They are saying that its cash burn is a board mandated strategy. Ultimately, the board signs on those. The cash burn has happened. So what is your advice to the first time founders in terms of cash burn, marketing spends, building a brand? How much of my effort and attention should go on spending money on building a brand versus really focusing on the basics?
Right. So see, if you look up at our portfolio, right, so we must have invested into companies like, it's a Samosa Party, Burger Singh, then you have Burger Rama. All these are the companies in which when we picked up, and these are 6 out of 48 investments, so Baki sab, all other burns we are sanctioning, but those are the tech side of it when we understand that those are lagging until they pick up. And but for these companies who are building up brands, right, where a lot of spend has to be made first to reach to the customers and then they can start banking on getting returns. Many times we have realized that founders, without analyzing how they should price up their product, they start spending more than the whole product value is, right? So, and their ROAS, which is return on ad spend, is screwed up. They don't look into the finances until and after a year when they realize that all the cash which they raised is gone into the marketing spend, which could have been used to better up their product, right? Any company which is first building up a brand should first finesse the product which they're selling, right? And I don't go by this that there was a company which finally came to us and then said they spent a lot of money finalizing the product without even taking a feedback from the whole customers they want to reach out, right? And at the end they realize that the product is not wanted to the market. So all the money you have poured into the manufacturing setups and all those things is gone for a toss. Right? And this recently happened. So I won't take a name, but this company was valued at 100 crores, right? And when we entered, a lot of investors, we were the second check or third check, but a lot of investors we came into it. And this is a case study for all of you. This is one of the company in which our bet was failed. So these are the learnings we have taken, so you should not be going through it. And the product which they were selling was typically not accepted by the market, but they have spent heavily on the marketing, be hiring a influencer, be hiring a celebrity to endorse their products and all the influential marketing they did. After 2 years, they realized that all the money they raised close to 30 odd crores, right? So, but then they realized that the market is not ready, you're not in manufacturing setup, survey, all that was done. And data, whole global economy said that it will kick off, right? So this product, I will take a name, gummies, right? So this is a gummies product. So gummies, if you look at the worldwide segment, you will see that it has been selling like hotcakes, not in India, right? So India mein wo kick off hua hi nahi. And so this company was making gummies for all those. And today the company is valued, let's say, 1/10 of it, right? And just we are reviving the company just because we asked them to stop all the ad spends what they've done. So their unit economics is solid. That's what I'm trying to make sure that whenever you're forming up a company, your unit economics has to be so solid that if you're selling a product which is 100 rupees, you should know that there is some margin of 20-30 rupees coming out of after you selling the product, right? Even a 10 rupees margin is there, it's a good thing. In calculating the marketing cost even. अगर आपका marketing cost 120 रुपए चल रहा है, initial time में it is okay, a year or two you're building up the market, that 20 rupees you can use from the money you're raising from outside or whatever cash you have. But after a later point of time when we restructured the whole unit economic, we realized that whatever marketing spend you've done, just stop it, whatever manufacturing plant you have formed it, just outsource the majority of the function of it. Like let someone else manage the manufacturing facility. You get yourself contract manufactured, right? So all these nuances you also set up in a company, and then the company now is rejigging. The numbers are coming very well. In last 2 quarters, they have crossed sale of 7-8 crores, right? And which is in the whole year they did that much number, but now they have done it. So my whole point around here is that unit economics is something you should always focus upon. Your marketing spends in the initial years can be directed very efficiently. There are agencies which does it very effectively. And in our investments spectrum, we always see that whenever you are raising funds, 60-70% is going to the Google and Facebooks of the world, right? You should not do that. You should always control that segment. And once you have your validation of the product, your product market fit is there, the customers are liking the product, start reducing the cost and improving your product rather than perfecting a product which is not even a product at what scale you are thinking about that one. I guess that's my bit.
I think that's very well said. I think the 2 companies which made the maximum money in the e-commerce boom, because so many people raised VC funding, the 2 survived, right? And we know the name of those 2 companies. The entire money went to Facebook and Google in ad spends. There's actually a study on that. But I think a good VC fund will come on initiatives like this and talk about their learnings. Because even if you have a top quartile VC fund and you've invested in say 10, maybe 3 will do well. And that can return the money of the entire VC fund. But the job of a good VC partner is to inform and do the knowledge sharing with the peer community, that what learnings they can sort of share and mistakes that you should not repeat. I think my job here as a moderator is to bring out those learnings from them We began with the dhanda and the technology equation. We spoke about product market fit from Agam, and then Vijay went on to talk about the marketing spends, how efficient the marketing spend should be. I come to you now, Dimple, on another question and something very important, which first time founders do, about governance. Okay, because a lot of us, especially VCs and funding institutions, are getting very enamored by the idea, oh, he's a techie, he's a great patent guy, or somebody is great with AI, Metaverse, or blockchain. But the reality is that, can that person be a great business person? That has not been proven yet. And time and again, these people are failing on the basic tenets of corporate governance. Like, I'll give you an example. I was talking to somebody and the dinner conversation, that person said that we are two founders, we will make 90% of the money. And there are these cohort of employees who have stayed with him for 6 years. They'll make like some 0.5%. That is defying the basic tenet of corporate governance, which is fairness. The wealth creation cannot be so disproportionate to the founders. The second was on processes. Their processes made by the founders for founders never works. So how much as investors, maybe I can understand from a Soonicorn perspective or from a Seafund perspective that they're working very closely with companies. Maybe he is working more on the financial aspect, he is working more on the tech aspect. But how much do VCs really work with the entrepreneur to really build out a company, teach them a process? कि भैया ये करना होता है.
I think really a very good question, Ashara. Thanks for asking this question. I think corporate governance and those organizations succeeds which are good on their corporate governance. From the perspective of employees also, organizations should be built on build to last. That for them, the employees should come first. If the employees, they will not take care of their employees will not take care of the organization. The opportunities for an employee should also be a fair one part of an organization. Let me come on a corporate governance from a perspective of your compliances or how do you want. Whenever, if we normally say कि नींव अच्छी होगी तो घर अच्छा बनेगा. That's go in a parallel shape to the organization also. Wherever the founder will start by keeping all its corporate governance clearly. Me coming from a chartered accountant background is also a believer that whenever you will start your all the paperwork and everything proper in organization, you will not fail in a future. We have seen in our portfolio companies when we, at the time of evaluating, we do a due diligence of approximately 3 weeks to check their market fit ideas, about their corporate governance, about their ideas. This is all one of our major part that we check that their corporate governance are proper. They have their all patents in place. They have filed their applications. They have GST compliant. So as a VC fund, at the time of due diligence, we check all of their corporate compliances. It's not only about the market fit or about the innovation or about the tech. As you grow along your trajectory into the organization and growing your organization, corporate governance is very important. In our past, we have seen some startup because of their corporate governance, they have kept their business on hold for 2 months, went again, procured the license and then restarted that business. That made them hold for 2 to 6 months into their life cycle of the startup. And as far as IPV is considered, we have our own mentorship program also, which startups come onto our board and then we do a mentorship on the basis of 3 months or 6 months and then help them to grow basically.
Okay, thanks for that. I think the last question here now to sort of, and also I'm understanding, there's a lot of capital now, let's just face it. There's just too much capital and perhaps too few good founders. And so much capital is chasing too few founders. So I think there's a big question on the side of the VCs that how are you differentiating yourself? There's a cult of branded VCs, right? So I think, and I was talking to like some founders came for a Hyderabad initiative, and I must tell you this, that there's a different kind of reverence they have for a venture debt guy. I mean, if a venture debt guy will call, they won't even go for the meeting. They will send somebody in the company. If there's a VC guy, they will attend the meeting. But within the VC fraternity also, they are very choosy whom they want on their cap table. So I think the tables have turned now. So one thing is, of course, there are entrepreneurs, but and for instance, this guy, and he's a Gurugram guy, and he runs an AI company, and he's telling me, Shrija, but do you have somebody from this fund? I don't want to name the fund. And they're like, this top 10 VC funds in the country. I said, yes, we do. I just want a meeting with that person. So why are founders becoming so choosy whom they want on their cap table? And is that a good strategy? In my view, no. But how would you sort of react to that?
So Shrija, just my view on this is, the whole capital game, जैसे कई बार founders think that there is no enough capital in the market. What she said is absolutely right. There is enough capital. Everyone is there to invest money. Just like how founders are chasing investors, investors are chasing good set of founders, right? This is a two-side story. And even investors are chasing investors. All VCs are looking for their LPs. So this is a same side story, right? The whole point is how this money started flowing. We have to look back in time, right? 2016, when the whole Flipkart story started, investors started pouring money into the startups, and that time startups were in the feeling that जहाँ से पैसा आ रहा है आने दो, right? COVID is the time when we realized कि we have to sit back, not to invest, but there is a period under which you will realize every week there was $1 billion invested in the COVID set of things, right? July से लेके I guess December we issue a weekly newsletter. There is $1 billion we invested every week that time. Till that time there's no problem, right? Later on, all these now when the profit gone and the people have started looking into what burning money has to be stopped, so people have very selectively started selecting startups. Now the startups even realize that the investors' mindset has changed, right? So what investors were earlier pushing money to grow, give a grow capital, now they are also into the sustainability capital, because we don't want this COVID chapter to happen again. So now investors are getting selective, and that's why the founders are even having a repercussion effect. And now they understand that investor, when he's going to call, he's going to ask the cash balance you're left with. And that's why they want to choose those right set of branded capitals who have enough capital to survive and provide future capital, right? So we have seen founders chasing investors, looking at brands, but I guess that's not a right strategy. You have to first sit down with investor. What questions investors has with you? Let him ask those questions, and then you should also understand which side of investor you're going to marry with, right? This kind of a marriage. Once you take an investor into your company, next 5 to 6 years, he's going to sit on all your calls of board meetings, and then you should not be having someone who's just pushing you around the sides, right? And we have seen in the past, be it Ola or some other companies, they have rebought their shares just to get control of the companies, right? And this is how the founders are now driving the sale. So tables have turned, but this is more of an amalgamation. Like, we investors would love to sit with a founder who understands our interest and also their interest, right? So this is a both sides story.
Aman, you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, I think very well said. I think we feel similar points even in our conversation with founders. It's not just about the capital bandwidth of the VC in terms of how far they can support the founder. That is of course a key criteria. A lot of times it's the way of thinking also, and the vision that the VC has when they're investing in the company. Obviously, a founder knows the company inside out, and hence a lot of times things change from the proposed plan. But how comfortable is the VC with those plans changing? A lot of times there's a misalignment. You've been in this industry long enough, you know there are multiple examples of large-scale VC funds and large-scale founders, and how tough those conversations and how brutally those conversations are ended. So I think it's very important to make sure that the alignment of overall goal is there between the two parties, both the VC and the founders. The cash balance on the VC side, of course, needs to be good. But parallelly, it's also about how comfortable they are with changing the ideas of the business, how comfortable they are with calling the founders late at night, or the founders calling them late at night. How resourceful are the VCs, not just in cash, but also in terms of their network and their ability to impact decisions. A lot of times we see founders going to corporate VCs because they have that pool of required capital, required resources. So I think it's very important. I disagree slightly with you. I think founders should be selected.
Okay.
They should be selected because it's your business, right? So you need to know who you're partnering with. You're not just taking money and just answering questions to them. You need to partner with someone who can answer your questions, who can work with you, who can support you, who will pick up your call at midnight if need be, and solve your problems. And we've seen multiple other VCs do that, right? It's not normal. I mean, it is normal now. and hence we selected. But yes, if push comes to shove and you're not getting the top quality VC or the VC of your choice, whatever that criteria is, one should be flexible, because at the end of the day, you need to continue the business, right? And maybe in the second round or the third round, you can look for more selective VCs when you have a brand built around this.
No, I think my point was that don't be fixated that I only want these top 5 VCs on the cap table. But I think for the benefit of this audience, one has to understand that how the VC ecosystem also works. I remember doing my interview with, which is now Axel, Erasmic. I interviewed Prashant Prakash at Erasmic. They were a very small fund. So sometimes the fortune of a VC fund can also significantly change on the back of the entrepreneur they have backed. So they happened to get lottery clicked with Flipkart. But yes, kudos to them. They had the guts and the gumption to back these 2 founders on a presentation at a PPT stage.
Yeah.
So you have to give to that credit you can't take away from them. But suppose Flipkart would have gone down under, they wouldn't have become Erasmic as Axel, which is now. Then they got another success with Mu Sigma. Again, tech company, very early on, they had the vision to sort of do that. But not to say that there are not other VC funds which might not getting so much media coverage, but not doing a great job of being a VC. I can tell you of a lot of VC funds, and because ultimately they are human beings, they are people. The biggest test to identify that you should take money from that person is not that meet up with that person 2 or 3 times. Can you work under that person? If you get that clarity, that chemistry, then I think it's not a bad idea to raise money from that person. Because the questions will not stop. You will have to send your MIS. The VC will ask you uncomfortable questions. So you have to be very, very open to these things. And my last question, just for the benefit, is that not every startup is made for VC funding. I think I would like you all to spend like the last 2 minutes on this also, because please understand, when you raise external capital, it's coming at the cost of freedom. It's coming at the cost of freedom. If you are an entrepreneur who's a difficult human being, you have a reputation that you can't work with people in an office, then definitely you can't work with VCs. Please understand that. Then I think, and you have to know yourself, right? You can't work with employees, you can't take feedback seriously, your stakeholders are a problem, then please don't take VC money, because you will ruin the relationship. And I think some businesses are not fundamentally designed for VC money. For instance, maybe I'm a passionate chef, I sell cakes from my home. That's a small business for me. I don't need to raise VC money for that, right? If I have that vision to become a Theo Brahma, but Theo Brahma also became a Theo Brahma raising money from ICICI Bank first. So I think that's where Sir was coming in. Maybe debt is better suited for you, because equity comes at a cost of a lot of things. Maybe you want to spend some time on that, which businesses are made for VC funding, which are not. Yeah, I can start with you, Vijay, and then, yeah.
See, what you said is absolutely bang on, and I also advise founders कि अगर तुम्हारे customers इतना पैसा दे रहे हैं कि तुम लोग grow कर पा रहे हो, then don't go to investors, don't bang the doors, because that's not going to change things. I will just give an example how we mitigated this in one of our companies. There was a company called as Grab on Rent, now it is shut. So we were advising them that time, and they raised a lot of capital. So कुछ 20-22 crore they raised from a couple of VC funds. And later on, they realized, our founders realized after 2 or 3 years, and these are IITs, these are not like non-smart people building a business. This business model is Furlanco, Rento Mojo, all these kind of companies, right? These companies require fund only at till a certain stage is achieved, right? To build up your tech, build up your team, build up your presence in the market, then you don't require VC capital. After a stage, जब उन्होंने 20-22 करोड़ रेज कर लिया, they realized कि अब उनको सिर्फ इन्वेंट्री पुल अप करनी है, और इन्वेंट्री कभी भी आप इक्विटी के पैसों से पुल अप नहीं कर सकते. That's a very what do you say, non-efficient way of building an inventory, right? Then that time they realized not only we have to shift to a debt side, and they started taking debt from all the people they found. 1 crore, 2 crore, 5 crore. They started talking to NBFCs, and that's how the NBFC business came into picture, and the whole business model spent around this, right? So whenever you're building up company or product, you have to realize that what is your capital going to give you, right? So if you're raising capital for setting up a manufacturing plant, better go with a debt, not with an equity, because no investor is interested to put their money into asset-heavy companies. So we all are tech investors. We love to invest in tech companies for a reason कि वो हमें multiples में effect देगी. No real estate companies, no manufacturing plant is going to give us. If you would have to do that, we will go to MSMEs and not to startups, right? That's why we invest into these companies. तो अगर आपको लगता है कि आपको manufacturing plant डालना, there is one company called as Mitra, we recently invested. They set up their own manufacturing plant out there in close to 60 kilometers from Gurugram, right? And it was 2.65 crores. And then when they came to us and we sat back and we realized, boss, we don't need equity money for this. We're not going to pour you more money. Just go and talk to some bank and get a loan for it. And that's what we did. And now the manufacturing plant is there, doubled their production capacity just after shifting from Delhi to that place, right? So you have to always encapsulate that your money, whatever you're raising, cost of equity, like this is more technical, but cost of equity, cost of debt, में जब भी आप compare करोगे, cost of equity is higher than cost of debt, right? So always go for debt. And I guess CGTMSE is absolutely fabulous to guarantee 16 what they have. मैं खुद कहीं apply कर लूँ. So that's something you should always opt for. Our money is going for a cost, and it is going to be. We are expecting 5x in 5 years now. This is a term in VC industry, right? मैं 5 साल के लिए आपको पैसा दूँगा, but I will expect at least 5x, 4x, 5x for our returns to come back. So if that is not coming in, and debt is not that, the debt is roughly 10-15%. अगर आप unsecured भी जाओगे, आपको 15 to 18% से ऊपर नहीं मिलेगा कहीं पे भी. It's much cleaner way of taking money. But taking debt and building a product and tech is going to kill your company also. These are two weighing options. This panel may not be suffice to answer that question, but sit down with your chartered accountant, understand cost of equity, cost of debt, and then analyze your business and then make a decision which capital is best for you.
No, I think all the points I'll recover them. You covered everything. But I think at the cost of not making VCs sound like principals and bad teachers, it is. I mean, it's important. Of course, you have to understand VCs have certain requirements. Right? They also have liability to their investors. So when we commit to our investors that we will do certain XYZ returns, we just have to enforce that upon our companies in one way or the other. And hence, if your business is a passionate business, a capex heavy business, one where you are unable to match the timelines of the VC in terms of the returns, which are discussed before investment, then at that stage it might not be the most VC specific investment.
You want to add to that, Dimple? And then we can just sort of do a quick rapid fire and wrap this beautiful conversation, yes.
I think most of the points are covered. People have to first understand how much they require, which type of a funding they require basically, whether it's debt or to some of your family members, or you want to go to VC. And in case you decided, yes, you want to go to a VC, we normally say that if you go to a VC, you do a short-term type of a marriage with them. You have to adhere to their rules. They will demand a board seat also. They will demand your MIS, compliances and everything. So first, you have to understand their perspective also, and then you will be able to match their requirement also.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it really is a marriage. We just hope it doesn't turn out to be an unhappy marriage. And I think the messaging is loud and clear and coming from the mouth of the VC himself. 5x in 5 years. I mean, it can't get clearer than that. So if you really have the wherewithal and the tenacity in you to sign up for something like that, then get into a relationship with a VC. But I think it's just fair on both the parties. The expectations have to be met just beforehand. And now it's time for rapid fire. And I'll again begin with you, because I began this panel with you. You have to name an entrepreneur which you think is completely overhyped right now.
Tricky questions. I'm out of it.
Come on, Vijay, you can't do that. I'm expecting that you're going to get answer. Dimple.
Very difficult question.
Quick, it's rapid fire.
Kunal Shah?
Kunal Shah. Yeah.
Maybe.
You want to say that?
No, so Kunal is great. I just have to take a name of a founder who's little overhyped. So I don't know. I don't degrade any founder. Whatever they're doing is best for them. But I would say, I guess, if I was to name someone, Ashni Grover is something I would follow the principles what he follows.
Okay, so overhyped. So you got Kunal Shah, Ashni Grover. What about you?
I think I'm going to get into trouble for saying this, but Bhavesh Agarwal.
Bhavesh Agarwal. Okay, so you're getting like all three prominent names. Okay, one Shark Tank pitch which you completely hated and you said, what on earth is it like really?
To think about this. I think there was one company, I forget the name, but they were making, they were a husband and wife which were making some home-cooked masalas and achars. But the way they were pitching, it was not the idea that was wrong, but I think the way they were making and the way they were pitching were very surprising to see. Kya kar rahe ho?
Okay, okay.
I guess after season 1 I dropped watching. So I realized that it's more for a D2C business to be there, get a marketing boost. But I guess few founders, there were 2 girls pitching for some company and the valuation they quoted was 300 crores odd. And even the product was not finished, it was not ready, so I guess that was a bizarre pitch. But I guess in that season Ashni was bashing everyone, so more worse than there was that zip line also, right?
Zip line, yeah. Yeah.
I think I'd seen one startup, I don't remember the name. It was that both the founders were obsessed with the Maggi. They were preparing a sandwich for Maggi, parathas with Maggi. And moreover, the valuation they quoted was something around 100 and 120 crore, which I like, it's more of an obsession towards the Maggi rather than a startup.
Okay. So I think if I were to sort of summarize this entire conversation, I think a lot of Shark Tankization is happening in the entrepreneurial world. And what it does is that it builds a certain kind of romanticism for the startup culture. And when anything gets romanticized and overawed, and I think the problem starts creeping in. Please understand, if you have chosen to be an entrepreneur, and if your company doesn't do well, and 90% startups fail, who is going to suffer? The VCs will write it off, it's their job. Your immediate family is going to bear the brunt of it. So whilst entrepreneurship can be very, very tempting, it's not for everyone, and please take an informed decision that you want to really pursue this and become an entrepreneur. By its very design, it is disruption seeking and it is not meant for everyone. But sir, I did ask you a question on the rapid fire. I have to ask you one question. So, sir, आपके हिसाब से, in the last 10 years, if you were to name one entrepreneur from this country whom you feel very inspired with, who would that be?
Last 10 years.
Yeah.
Many are there, but to name and nail, because there are problems in each and everything. You have to do the cost benefit analysis like that. But hype is created, like Bansals.
You think it's a hype?
Certainly.
The Flipkart Bansals.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we can get into a conversation on that one. That's a different answer, but thank you so much. Can we get it up for this panel, please? Who was so insightful and shared their learnings so well with us, and they were so forthcoming. We can maybe take 2 questions from the audience and then we can just wrap it up. Yeah. Okay.
What do you think about brand Modi?
That's a separate conversation, I guess. Any startup-related questions from the investors, please? We can entertain those.
Yes, please ask. मतलब जब तक आप लोग पूछेंगे नहीं तो आपके doubts कर सकते हैं.
Hello, good afternoon team. Myself Ashish Sharma, founder and director of Seva. एक छोटा सा क्वेश्चन है सर आपसे कि आपने कहा कि स्टार्टअप्स जो होते हैं वो चेज करते रहते हैं अपना टैग लेके बनने के लिए. इन्वेस्टर कैसे करता है वो हमें कैसे पता पड़ेगा कि वो भी कहीं से देख रहा है तो किस तरीके से हाईलाइट हो.
See, जितने भी founders हैं, what you are building, right? You have to be into right space at right time. It's very important. जैसे आज आप यहाँ पे हो, right? Maybe there are 3 funds, Seafund Ventures, I know. Good team, these guys are investing in big tech. We are sector agnostic, IPV sector agnostic, right? तो आपको पहले तो सब जगह गेट नहीं बजाना।
एक्चुअली क्या फाउंडर्स के माइंड में थोड़ा रहता है कि थोड़ा फंड मिल जाए, तो इधर उधर बहुत भटकता है, ना कि अपने प्रोडक्ट पे फोकस करता है।
मैं उसी का आंसर कर रहा हूँ कि सी स्टार्टिंग आपको कैपिटल लगेगा। एनी बिजनेस कैन नॉट स्टार्ट विदाउट कैपिटल। इफ योर फादर इज एबल टू गिव यू, माय फर्स्ट बिजनेस वाज स्पॉन्सर्ड बाय एंड फंडेड बाय माय फादर. I gave him 2x exit in 1 year, right? So that was my first venture when I was 21 years of age, right? तो कैपिटल आपको लगेगा, या तो आप फैमिली से ले लोगे, या फैमिली फ्रेंड से ले लोगे, या कहीं बाहर से लोगे, right? To finalize why I'm saying you, whatever your company is, right? It's a tech company. आपको इन्वेस्टर्स इंडिया में अगर 3000 है, whatever figure is, right? अगर वैसे 100 एक्टिव VCs हैं, लेकिन whatever VCs आते हैं और whatever angel investors हैं, you have to understand which suits you. आपको filtration खुद करना पड़ेगा. Rather than going to,
that was not my question. Investors कैसे खोजते हैं?
हाँ, okay. So we look for those founders who have screened us before coming to us. Right? That was my summation of this. I was coming to that one. The point is, जब founders हमारे पास आ जाते हैं, let's say I am more of a, let's say, deep tech fund, right? Sector focused funds होते हैं. If he is receiving D2C brands or let's say a non-tech companies into his email box, he is rejecting you right away without looking at you, right? When we as a sector agnostic funds, we will look into each and every company, right? But then we have 3,000 applications coming a year, right? And these, whatever we meet and exchange card, that is on top of it. So point is, we look for those companies which are fitting our criteria boxes. So आपको ना कुछ, we have to finalize those founders. जैसे मैं अपना बता देता हूँ, what we look into a company is there has to be revenue generation. There has to be a tech involved into it. There has to be a solid team of 3 to 4 two founders at least, right? And 3 is more than good. Their tech has to be sorted. Their first revenue has started coming in. All these are our stages of investment. So we invest in seed to series A, right? तो हम लोग उन्हीं companies को pick करेंगे जो इस criteria में select होती हैं. And India has 10,000 startups coming every year. So my task is to finalize those companies to fit in, right? So that's, and we sit down with founders for numerous calls. Then we analyze the DD होता है, evaluation होता है. So if it's a long gestation, 3 months लगता है किसी भी deal को from meeting to stage पे close करने में. So the founder has to be patient in that sense. But we claim to be we love to invest into companies in 2 to 3 weeks, right? That's what our team sits down with them. Numerous calls happen with their tech team, their own team, and then we end up investing into 3 weeks, or that's an average we are running on. So our selection criteria is very simple कि हमें अपने अगर हमारे check box tick होते हैं, what investors are backing us to invest their money into the startups, if that is ticking check. But this information is available online. So founder को वो पहले screen करना पड़ेगा कि instead of reaching out to all the investors, reach out only to sector specific focused funds. अगर agri tech में हो तो agri tech fund में जाओ, वहाँ पहले आप अपना खटखटाओ, then agnostic funds. So this is how you have to follow a passion. That's how we are also finalizing good companies and investing. So अगर मैंने 48 investments करी हैं, so understand the amount of deals we have looked into and the amount of founders we have met, right? So that's our solution.
So I think the cold emailing doesn't work,
No,
or does it?
That's dead. That don't know.
Cold email will not work.
Never.
Okay.
At what stage do VCs start getting involved in terms of evaluating the quality of resources? Because people make companies. So initial, obviously there will be business projections and all, but when do you actually start getting involved in managing or evaluating the quality of resources in the investee companies? At what stage?
You mean human resources,
Yes.
team, talent, people.
Leadership team quality evaluation.
Okay.
I can answer that. I think depends on the stage, but typically before investing, this is one of the criteria to look at the management team and evaluate them. VCs do different VCs do different things, but at a larger scale fund, you have various diligences that happen. There is a founder due diligence, which is a key component of the agreement, which will only if the founder due diligence, and not just the co-founders, but their management team as well. If that is satisfied, only then do the VCs proceed with the agreement signing. So the co-management is evaluated day one before investing. Once a VC gets involved with, depending on again on the various kinds of VC, but if a VC is more involved in the startup, then they will work with you very closely to review every key management hire that has happened. So then they work with you, they interview the key management potential future hire that is discussed and debated in the board meetings that are happening. and hence every key managerial role is definitely discussed and reviewed by the VC, not just at the time of investment, but also during the course of the operation. Of course, till the point of time that the threshold is hit, and the company can now company can, to the satisfaction of the VC, grow by themselves. That's when they stop looking into the day-to-day HR, senior HR decisions.
And I think just to sort of suffice to say that there have also been instances where VCs who are really the builder VCs, who build the startup along with the entrepreneur, where they have been instrumental in getting the right kind of person to the company. I mean, the biggest example is Kalyan Krishnamurthy coming to Flipkart, right? I mean, they're the firm, the VC fund took the decision, no matter the founders detested and said, no, we will not let this happen. But look at him, he's the hero now. So the talent is what decides. I mean, it's ultimately about people, and if the company has raised VC funding, a lot of senior leadership decisions cannot happen just on founders' veto anymore, I'm assuming, yeah. Especially the head of sales, the head of strategy, and some of those things. You had a question?
Yes. Hi everyone. One of the points that you made, that you prefer 2, maybe 3 co-founders. Something honestly I hear quite often as a single founder, even in great conversations that I'm having with investors. And I wonder, just to kind of summarize the question I get asked, is at what stage in the roadmap am I looking at sort of bringing in a co-founder? I wonder, why are we still looking at mitigating risk with multiple co-founders when we do have a lot of success stories with the Canva or the Amazons or the Metas of the world? So just trying to understand what the perspective there is.
Yeah.
What set of company you're building with?
It's a health tech.
It's a health tech, right? So you have a background of health?
Yes.
Like you're a doctor or something?
Yes,
or
I mean, I'm a functional health practitioner, so I do have a specific technical background for it.
And how do you manage all the finances?
How to manage the finances?
Finances.
So, in terms of how we are funding, etc.
Yeah. No, not funding, maybe digital finance operations and all those things.
So I do have a very robust sort of leadership team. I kind of treat
You
them
have
as
a team, right? So it's how many years you have been into the business?
we're in an early stage, so we're about 1 year old.
1 year old. And how do you manage your tech? Is it an outsource or you're building it
No,
in-house?
in-house, and I do have a CTO.
Wonderful. So you have a CTO, right?
Yes.
See, talking about the co-founders thing is, whenever these startups are started, like they have 2, 3 functions, or whatever I took, right? Business is a function,
Right.
finance is a function, and tech is a function. Without these 3 functions, no business can come to its form and shape.
Absolutely.
So if the founder has figured it out, like have you said, कि आपने CTO तक बना लिया है, I can understand that you've figured out giving some equity or maybe what do you say, a good salary package to that person, how you managing it is good.
Equity early stage, right? So we can't afford
So these people who are with you from the day one, right? We would love to see who is managing which function. What is the capability of that person doing that? I am a chartered accountant, I can do finances in my company, but the tech, if I am building a tech company, there has to be someone at a senior most position who can drive the tech, right? Maybe that's from a sweat equity, an ESOP being given to that person, all that can be done. But most of these companies, when they start at the college level, or the people who are just coming out of their job and find 2 or 3 set of people and they start building those companies. So as an investor, हमें वो comfort चाहिए कि anyone who is single man company is always a risk, because tomorrow you think, I'm going to shut down my shop, who is going to manage all your operations, right? Is there a delegation being done to other co-founders who can manage this? अभी स्टोरी आई है फार्मेसी के 5 फाउंडर्स से 4 जा रहे हैं, right? 1 बचा है. And the company, but still that company is being acquired and all those down rounds have happened. But there are 5 founders, 4 are living at this stage out of 5 years, right? But still, is there has been a formula कि 5 founders थे तो बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़िया कंपनी होनी चाहिए. Eventually it happened, but eventually it came back to 0, right? तो वो कोई formula नहीं, it's not a templatized, but we love to invest into companies where founder is not too much involved into his equity stake कि उसको लग रहा है कि नहीं मैं अकेले सब कुछ कर लूँगा, फिर वो कितना कर लेगा ना, फंडिंग भी लानी है, टेक भी बनाना है, team भी manage करें. That's why it is always happy. We love to invest. जहाँ पे 2 या 3 co-founders हो ताकि they distribute their functions and build teams within themselves. That's what we do.
But like you said, if it's a
just one second.
leadership team or a family,
You know, we'll have to sort of like really cut it now because we're way out of time. We're oversubscribed. The room is full now. Like we have people waiting in line. And to answer your question, I think you will face unique challenges just being a female founder. So that's a different conversation. I'm a single founder, but I think you can have one-on-one with both Agam and Vijay. But thank you so much. What a lovely, lovely panel. Can we hear it up for all our panelists, please? You've been so forthcoming. And we'll have some time for the CGTMSE presentation, and we have shortened the time for the lunch, guys. Thank you. Yeah, the lunch has to suffer. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank
Take
you to our
care.
amazing
Thanks.
panelists
Thanks,
for such a
Vijay.
wonderful
Thank you so much for
discussion.
coming. Thank you so
I
much.
would like to
sir.
request Dhiraj sir to facilitate the
Yeah.
speakers, please.
Yeah.